When your image, presence, and brand aren't aligned, the cost isn't always visible. But it shows up in rooms you're not invited to, the leadership that gets overlooked, and the opportunities that go to somebody else less qualified. I'm Jane Singer, and welcome back to A Seat at the Table, where forward-thinking people from 176 countries and territories join me each week to sit down with leaders, innovators, authors, and entrepreneurs to find out what's working, what's not, and what we might want to try. Meet Jenny Dewberry, an image consultant who works with individuals, high-achieving leaders, corporate professionals, and visionary CEOs to use their image as a strategic tool for credibility, visibility, and opportunity. In this episode of A Seat at the Table, Jenny will be discussing the silent signals that influence trust, income, and perceived leadership, what looking the part actually means, and why it never is really just about clothes, and how to build an external presence that reflects who you really are. If you're ready to sharpen your image, then join me in sitting down with Jenny Dewberry. Well, Jenny, it's just fantastic to have you here with us. What you have to talk about is so important and so relevant to the people who listen to this podcast. I'm very excited to dive into this with you. I think
Yes.
everyone, as we were just discussing, really needs to upgrade their image a bit. You know, as you were saying,
hmm
we've gotten a bit lazy during the COVID era, and that era is well behind us. So it's about
Yes,
time that we, sort of pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, so to speak.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that is what I am about, bringing that awareness back that, you have to present yourself in a manner that's not only respectful to you, but respectful to those that are around you, and really pay attention to the details of you. Because that's what opens doors. That's what opens doors. That's where you gain that respect, you gain that credibility, in how we show up and how we present ourselves to others. So very, very important.
Absolutely. I really think that we've really gone to the being authentic kind of mode. We've taken that too
hmm
far. I think if we
Yeah.
erred in the past, right, about perhaps projecting a false image, you may say, we've really,
hmm
really gone to the other extreme about this is me, this is who I am.
Yeah, and that's so true. And it's very important to be authentic and remain true to who you are. However, refinement is always a good thing. Refining that person, who you are, not just externally, but internally, working on being, and we hear it a lot, and it's not just a catchphrase, but being the best possible version of yourself and whatever that looks like for you. It's not, we're not talking about perfection. We're not talking about impressing anyone. We're just talking about showing up as the best person that you can show up as.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the way you framed that. I think you're right. Being your best self, right? Not trying to be somebody else, which again is not easy in a day and age with influencers and all these,
Yeah.
images that are put forward as to what we should be like. But
hmm
also, pulling yourself up and trying to elevate yourself, as you're saying, from the sense of being your best self, a matter of personal
hmm
pride.
A matter of personal pride, and that's all it is. Personal pride, presence, especially
Mm.
when we're trying to step into opportunities, when we are looking for even a client to trust us with not only their finances, but their most sensitive information about them personally, about details of the things that they do, where they want to go. They need to trust who's sitting across from them, and who they are giving that information to. And that really comes through what they see first. Like you and I are here, and probably the listeners are really that first impression, so to speak, not only in what we say, but how we look. How we look is what draws people in, or the voice, even our voice. That's an impression. That's a first impression. So it draws others in, and then that's how you build that credibility and trust. The know, like, trust factor. It comes in. Again, I'm an image consultant, so I am again all about image and the first impression, and just positioning yourself for success in how you look, not just your appearance, but your body language, everything, your image in totality.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, can you share some examples? I mean, you talk about that image communication, what you refer to as image communication, and how it
Mm-hmm.
quietly shapes authority. What might be some examples? You mentioned voice, you mentioned what you wear, how you carry yourself.
Mhm. So yes, all of that again, presence, how we what we wear, how we carry ourselves, our posture, our pose, our ability to carry a conversation, and then what people dismiss a lot is effective listening. Being able to
Mm.
hear what the person is saying across from you so that you can respond appropriately and so that the other person will know that you're engaged. That's communication as well, whether people put a lot of weight into that, listening to someone. And again, that's the only way that you're going to know what that person is seeking, whether it's just a conversation, if it's just wanting to be heard, or they could be needing a service that they're not quite sure what it is they need to ask for, but by you knowing how to listen to that person and responding in a manner that's going to give them what they need. So presence shapes everything. Quiet presence, quiet confidence. It's not about being loud. You're not going to be the loudest person. Well, you shouldn't be the loudest person in the room. But if you've ever noticed, you may be in a room, a person is on the other side of the room, but they're quiet, they're poised, they look grounded and self assured. That right there in itself is confidence, and it's an unshakable confidence. And again, that's going to draw the other person in. I call us book covers.
Mhm.
So, you're in, yeah, you're in a bookstore, you're looking for a certain topic and you're in an aisle and there's all these books in the aisle. They all talk about the same thing, but that one particular book stands out to you because it's different. It's quiet. It has a certain power to it that draws you in. And so naturally you're going to want to open that book up and find out what's inside. We're like that too as human beings.
I think that's a very good point. And I do think that most of us feel that in order to be seen, we need to be louder. Whether that
Mhm.
be speaking louder, wearing bolder clothing, right? Having something on that's flashy and attractive. Now, you're talking about that kind of quiet presence. How does someone
Right.
achieve that?
Well, it takes practice. It does take practice like anything else, but you have to be intentional. You have to
Right.
think about what you want to accomplish, right? Think about what you want to accomplish. What are your goals? Set those goals. And then you begin to take small steps. And, well, what am I going to wear?
Mm,
How am I going to behave? Who is going to be in this room? And that's why I say you position yourself for that quiet presence.
mm,
You want to be confident and stand in confidence, but you need to know how to do that. When you enter a room, how are you entering a room? Are you entering a room slowly? Are you
mm.
assessing who's in the room, or are you going in like a bull in a china shop? Are
Right.
you going in, rushing through, looking unorganized, not really knowing who it is you want to connect with? And what you're going to say when you connect with that person. So presence, shaping that and developing a presence really takes time. It takes practice, and it requires you knowing what your goals are, not just in certain situations, but in life in general, what your goals are, what your business goals might be, and who is it that you want to be? How do you want to show up? How do you want to be known? What do you want people to know you for? All of that helps shape your presence. When you know those things, you can begin to work on them. Um, Journaling, that helps you to get an idea of who this person you want to refine into.
I think that's such a good point. And to bring it out like this so that people can really understand that you can do these things without being, as you said, like a bull in a china shop, without everyone trying to outshout each other in one way or another,
Mm-hmm.
is really
Yeah,
important. It's sort of an art that we lost a long time ago,
it is.
and it's as you're pointing out. I think it's really important is that when everyone's shouting, nobody's going to be heard. So, in a sense, by being the one who's calm and quiet, knows who they
Mhm.
are, you actually stand out, especially
That's
nowadays.
good. Yes, absolutely. Because the world thinks if you're not loud, then you're insecure, or you're an introvert. But
Right.
many times that's quiet confidence. It's confidence.
Mm,
It's confidence in knowing who you are. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be, you hear the word performative a lot, but you don't have to
right.
be performative because you just are. you're comfortable in your own skin. You know who you are. And so I'll tell you a story about a gentleman, and this sticks with me. And this was probably 10 years ago. So I was at an establishment, and this gentleman walks through the door. But before he walks through the door, I watch the employees. They're just standing around in the middle of the floor talking. And I'm there and I'm watching. So a gentleman comes through the door. And the way he walked through that door, it wasn't, it was just grounded.
Mm.
He walked through the door, and the people that were standing in the middle of the floor, they just started to fumble and scatter, looking like, who is this guy? And
Right.
he wasn't dressed in a suit, but he looked like he was someone that they should listen to. He
Mm.
looked like he owned that room. And so that's what presence is, to walking in with that confidence that I belong here. I am someone here, and you'll be surprised of how others will react to that. So that sticks with me, because come to find out, the guy was there for an interview, but
Right.
he just, yeah, his presence in general and that first impression commanded respect from the others in the room. So that's what presence is: just knowing who you are, knowing what you want to accomplish, and then paying attention to the details, of yourself, and knowing the rooms that you're entering into. So, it's a big part of presence.
I really like that, and I like
Mm-hmm.
the way that you've pointed out that, in a sense, too much weight has been given to being overly performative, and in a
Yes.
sense, we need to dial that back. Um, it becomes
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming for people on the
Yeah.
other end when you're around someone who's like that. It's
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, it is. It's like you said, it's overwhelming. It can be a bit off-putting. People will hesitate probably to connect with that person that's loud and all over the place. People want to be able to connect with you and be able to have a conversation with you, not one person monopolizing the whole conversation. Everything is about them.
right, right.
Not, that's not the impression that you want to make, and it's certainly not a good brand. It's not a good look for others brand, because it's not about us. It's about the people who needs us, who are looking for us, and what we can offer to them. And so it's important to know that too. When we're in business, it's not all about us, but we
Right.
want to position ourselves authentically so that those are who are looking for us can resonate what it is that we're offering, or resonate with us in general.
Now, what are the silent signals, as you call them, that influence trust? That the things that make you be perceived as a leader.
Mm-hmm. Consistency is the first. That's the first silent signal. I'm here, you see me online, and then you meet me in real life. Am
Mm.
I that same person? And then when it comes to real life, when you see me, I'm going to a networking event. When you see me at this networking event, who am I? The same person that you might see in the office? Am I the same person that you might see if you see me in a supermarket? Being consistent with who you are absolutely builds trust, because your audience knows what to respect from you. That's one. And the other, I would say, is doing what you're going to do 100% of the time. So that signals
Mm.
trust as well. People know that they can depend on you. Reliability is very important in that as
Right.
well. So there's a lot of small steps that you can take to help build that trust. It's going to be consistency, credibility,
Mm.
and then being transparent.
Right.
Being transparent, not giving your whole story away, and not telling everyone everything that's going on in your life, but being transparent enough to let the other people see that she's open about, or he is open about who he is. He's sharing parts of himself, so that brings a bit of trust as well. So those are three things that you can start with that will help build that those signals of trust. And
That's
there's
so
many more, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's so important. I think that the point about being consistent is really valid, and it seems like a small thing, and you don't realize that people at a very subliminal level recognize when somebody's consistent and somebody is not, you're almost not trustworthy when you're not consistent.
So true. Yeah. And consistency is showing up when you say you in the places that you say you're going to show up, being consistently on time, being
Yes.
consistency in how we, in our appearance. And I'm
Mm.
not saying that, you're going to wear the same thing at a networking event that you're going to wear at the supermarket, or you're going to wear the same thing in the office, but that, again, the presence of who you are is the same. It's in alignment with who you say you are. I can't tell you, well, I'm an image consultant, personal brand strategist, and then you see me somewhere else and um, I don't look like who I say I am. You don't
Right.
trust that I'm going to be able to help you in those areas that I say that I can if I don't look like I can. So that connection there, it can either open doors or close them.
It's interesting because when you look at a lot of people in very high leadership positions, you
Mm-hmm.
notice they wear the same thing, right? It's like whether it
Yeah.
be Steve Jobs with always the black turtleneck, or
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump always in a suit with either a red or a blue tie, right? He's never going for a tie with like a lot of pattern or design. Not to say
Right.
that pattern is wrong, but he has a
Mm-hmm.
certain look. It's that kind of, it's always the same, always the same. And
Yeah.
you can mention other people as well. Um, you do notice that amongst leadership positions
Mm-hmm.
in any
True.
industry more of the people
Yes.
do that, not because they can't afford other clothes, but because they create, like you're saying, as you're describing this, I can really see these examples and
Mm-hmm.
other people as well. Those are just two that came to mind. But
Sure.
you can really start to see, yeah, exactly. They create that image and they maintain that image across, all platforms and channels, you might say.
Hmm. It's the brand. They're branding themselves. So
Yes,
people, when people think about the black turtleneck, or when they think about Steve Jobs, they're going to think about the jeans, a
right,
black turtleneck, always. And as you said, Donald Trump, they're going to think about the red tie and the suit. They'll think about, say, I'm going to say Michelle Obama. They'll think about her and know that she is a fashion powerhouse.
right,
They'll think about her and her style. She's not always going to have on a ball gown. She's not
right.
always going to have on, something that she would have worn to an inauguration. But when you see her, she's going to always have that polish about her, and she's always going to be on brand in how
Right.
she shows up. Yeah,
Yeah,
very
it's so
important.
important. But it does, as you're saying, create that consistency. Whereas I think most of us, even if we're not being sloppy, we tend to want to experiment with what we wear. We're like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm in the mood to wear this today. Oh, I'm in the mood to have a different look. And we don't realize that beyond a certain level, that's
Yeah,
actually working against us. And we
it
need
is.
to be more, I don't want to say uniform, but basically uniform in what we wear, how we act, like you're
Mhm.
saying, that consistency.
Yeah, all those things together, the connection between, we have to remain in alignment. Misalignment at any point in those areas will diminish the trust and our credibility. Now, I will say that when you look in your wardrobe, there should be items in there that can give you that different feeling when you put the item on, but those items have to work for you, and they have to still be in alignment with the person that you are in your personal style. So yes, just knowing who you are, knowing what your style is, knowing how you communicate your behavior, what your mannerisms are, and staying true to that. Don't try to fit in with
Right.
every room that you're entering, right? The room should be able to adjust to you, so
Mm.
to speak, versus you going into a room, because there's so many personalities in that room. So who are you going to try to be like? No one but
Such a good
yourself.
point. Such a good
Mm-hmm.
point. You're right. You know, it's so true. In everything we do, we tend to want to please a million. We're trying to please too many masters, and you end
Mm-hmm.
up being nothing to anybody.
That's right. Yeah. You've lost yourself. And when
Yeah.
we don't know who we are, um, you're fighting an uphill battle, because if you're not secure in who you are, in your identity, each room that you enter, you're going to feel compelled to, like I said, adjust to that room. Or I see someone in that room and feel like, well, maybe I should be acting like this person. Maybe I should behave like this person. When
Right.
all you have to do is be yourself, be your authentic self. And if you're not, confident in who that person is, then take some time and work on it And you can change. People can
Yeah.
change. I call it refining. You can change. You can decide at any moment that you want to be someone different. Not the essence of who you are is going to be the same, but if you want to, behave a different way, which is if you feel that that's something that you need to do, then it's good to work on that. If you see someone and you aspire to be like that person, not be that person, but something about that person resonates with you, then work on that. Identify the things that are going to help you become comfortable in who you are. And then when you're entering rooms, you don't worry about who's in the room, so to speak, where I can't be. Is there someone in this room where I can't be myself?
Right.
Because you've done the work. You've done the work to enter any room and, as they say, take up space in that room. Mm-hmm.
So, drilling down on that just a little bit more, what does looking the part actually mean? And you mentioned it's not just about clothes.
Right. Yeah. So looking the part, it is the first step is what you have on. Looking like who you say you are. As I just mentioned, I say that I am an image consultant. I'm a personal brand strategist. I'm a wardrobe stylist as well. So am I going to show up somewhere to meet a client, so to speak? And I have on a baseball cap. I have on a
Right.
t-shirt. I have on some two short shorts or something like
Right.
that. Something
Right.
that's misaligned with who I say I am. So that's one part of looking like who you say you are. Now beyond the appearance, how you carry yourself, how you
Mm.
present yourself, how you walk into a space, how your the body language, how you stand, how you walk is very important. Even how you sit, it all of that plays into looking the part, and it just
Right.
depends on what that part is, what it is that you do. But you want to be consistent in that. Say, look like who you say you are,
Right.
behave like what you say you are, and that's really what that is. It's really it's simple, but it takes work, and it takes thought, being intentional, and being self-aware in those situations too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. It's that balance between being self-aware without being self-conscious, so to speak.
Right, yes. Yeah, and again, sitting down and this happens over time. It's a process when we
Yeah.
are refining and going through this self-identity process. It's an ongoing process. Personal branding never ends. It's an ongoing process, but once you know who you are, you're staying true to that person, but you're just adding little things along the way. You're enhancing along the way when you feel that it's necessary. And that's the important part, not trying to live up to the expectations of other, but doing things your way. And when you feel the need is there, and not allowing other people to tell you what you need to change. Because you know when something feels off.
Yeah, I really like that. I think so many people really want to get to a point where they feel comfortable in their own skin, so to speak. That
Yeah.
it's sort of okay to be me. And yes, I want to refine a few things, buff up a
Hmm.
few things here and there, polish this or that, but I don't
Right.
need to try to be an entirely different person.
That's
That kind
right.
of
Yeah.
self-acceptance. Um, as you're pointing out, without being, sloppy.
Yes, without being sloppy. Again, paying attention to detail, that refinement, that polish. And when you change, well, when your mindset change, and when you look at those things from a different light, then once you begin to work on them, once you identify, well, these are parts that I'm not really happy with. I want to work on that. Once you start working on it, practicing, it just becomes a part of who you are. It's second nature. You don't have to think about it anymore. It's
Yeah.
become you. And so that, again, that's important. And no one should expect this to happen overnight. It takes intentionality. It takes sitting with oneself to know where it is, who it is that you're trying to evolve into. And, I hear a lot reinvention. I don't like the word reinvention because I don't think that we have to reinvent ourselves.
Mm.
I mean, we should be able to embrace who we are. And again, as we said previously, and just refine that, enhance that, because we all can enhance certain areas of who we are. Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how do you build that external presence that reflects who you actually are?
Hmm. Um, Again, knowing who you are, but that external presence for me and some clients that I've worked with, again, I have to come back to wardrobe because that's the
Right.
first thing that a person sees is what you're wearing. And then what you're wearing, does it match the environment that you're entering into? Does it match the
Mm.
goal that you're trying to achieve? So start with that, your wardrobe. You don't have to spend tons of money on your wardrobe, but make sure that your wardrobe fits your lifestyle and your
Right.
goals and the person that you are today. Everything is about today. Don't think about the person you were yesterday. Well,
Right.
today and moving forward. You can do that. That started with your wardrobe, and then practice poise.
Mm.
Practice poise. Yeah. How are you handling certain situations? How are you communicating and connecting with others? In conversations, are you cutting people off? In conversations, are you rushing through your words? And are you looking for um, I lost my words. Are you looking for someone else's opinions of who you are and who you should be? And dismiss those things if you are. That helps with presence as well. It really comes down to knowing you and building that confidence and refining. I'm going to always come back to refining and poise. Poise is very important, very important. Um, yeah, just think about how you're moving through the world, how you're moving into spaces, how you're speaking to others in conversation, speaking your the words that we are using and the pauses that we take when we are speaking and in these moments, and giving the other person the opportunity to speak with you as well.
Yeah, I like the fact that you pointed out that we need to sort of dial back that need for external validation and
Yes, that's right.
really connect with who we are, focus on, as you're saying, be more intentional in terms of how we
Mm-hmm.
listen to people, how we converse with people, understand who you are, maintain who you are, and I think if I'm understanding you correctly, respect the fact that not everybody's going to like you, and that's
That's
okay.
right. It's okay. And it only becomes okay when you're okay with who you are,
Right.
right? When excuse me, when you know who you are. That external validation, it doesn't matter as much. It doesn't matter as much because it's overwhelming when
Right.
you're, you know, uh, going through life feeling like you're not enough, feeling like this is, I'm only doing what I think Jane wants me to do. I'm only
Right.
doing this because social media says that I need to do this, but this
Right.
doesn't feel like me. You feel detached, and then you burn out, and then you don't want to do anything. So, yeah, knowing who you are is very important, especially in today's world. As you
Yes.
mentioned, there's so many influencers online. There's so many beautiful people online. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, for one. Um, and natural beauty is the most beautiful thing a person can have. Not saying anything about those who choose to get um, enhancements. That's a personal choice. But just again, embracing who you are, because everyone can't do that. Even if we would want to, everyone is not able to do that. So being able to again embrace who you are, accept who you are, and know that you are enough. And I also want to say, because this brings me to a time where I was invited to a room and I was crippled by the people that were in that room. I,
Really.
I just felt like I did not belong here. What am I going to do when I walk through the door? And I literally had to call someone and talk to them on the phone before I went into this room to get a good pep talk. But
Mm.
once I crossed over that threshold and got into that room, I did realize that I belong here. I am enough. And if someone didn't think that I belonged here, I wouldn't have been invited. So that's what we have to remember too when entering spaces. If you were asked to come, if you were invited to the table, then you belong there. And if you're not invited to the table, I love the title of your show, then you make your own table and you
Well,
set it up
exactly.
how you set it. Yeah.
Exactly right. Well, Jenny,
Hmm.
thank you so much for joining us here. You've shared so many great insights. I really feel energized after speaking with you, and I'm thinking about how I can improve myself and level up a bit. And I think everybody listening to this is feeling the same way.
Yeah, and again, it's not about changing who you are. The essence of who you are is going to be. But if you feel like something is off, if you feel like you want to improve in certain areas, and I know that as women, we want to improve and refine. It's okay. More people are doing this than one might think. So take the time, sit with yourself, and decide what it is you want to do, what your goals are, how you want to move forward, and find you someone that you aspire to be like, not to
Yes.
be, but to be like, and take parts of that person and start adding it a little bit into your personality, so to speak. So yeah,
Such
not it's
fantastic advice.
nothing wrong with
Well,
it.
I'm going to
Good.
leave the contact details for you in the show notes. If you're listening to this as a podcast, and if you're watching it as a video, it'll be in the description area. So for people who want to be able to connect with Jenny and perhaps take the opportunity to work with her, all that information will be there.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Jane, and thanks to the listeners.
Thanks for being with us here today on A Seat at the Table. If you'd like to see some of the other episodes, head on over to our podcast website at seat.fm. That's SEAT.fm. There's also a link here in the show notes. And if you're thinking that you'd like to be a guest on the show, you'll find information on how to apply there as well. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Jane Singer, and I will see you in the next episode.